In Part 5 of our recap of the Metal Gear series, we looked at the original Metal Gear and its sequel, and spoke about Solid Snake's introduction to the story and his confrontations with Big Boss. In Part 6, we will talk about the Shadow Moses incident, and the beginning of the long-running conflict between brothers Solid and Liquid Snake. As usual, spoilers ahead. It's been 6 years since the fateful events that took place in Zanzibar Land, where Solid Snake faced off against his mentor and genetic father, Big Boss, and came out victorious. You could be forgiven for thinking that with Big Boss and his twisted interpretation of the boss's will out of the picture, at least for now, things are only going to get better. That could not be further from the truth. Even though Solid Snake fought and won against the fallen legend, the worst is still to come, and things are definitely not going to get better. Shadow Moses is an island close to Alaska that is particularly important to the United States for a number of reasons, chief among them being that it secretly serves as a massive nuclear weapons development site for the government. The US leadership receives word in 2005 that the island has been occupied by a group that is calling itself Sons of Big Boss. Under the leadership of Liquid Snake, Foxhound has gone rogue, and with the combined strength of his followers, which includes Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Decoy Octopus, Revolver Ocelot, Vulcan Raven, and a number of genome soldiers who are part of the government's experiments to genetically enhance soldiers with Big Boss's genes, he's formed the Sons of Big Boss, and now he has a firm hold over the island. His demands are simple and a bit hard to swallow. The Sons of Big Boss informed the US government that it has 24 hours to cough up a ransom of $1 billion, as well as the remains of Big Boss himself. Thanks to the sensitive nature of the mission, the fact that the genetic experiments on the genome soldiers were a state secret, and the fact that the DNA in Big Boss's remains is extremely valuable, the government decides that it cannot give in to these demands. What's more, the START 3 Accords are to be signed by several nations, including the US, in just a day, and they cannot risk their non-compliance with non-proliferation becoming public knowledge just before that happens. And as such, Colonel Roy Campbell is asked to convince the now legendary soldier Solid Snake to come out of retirement in order to deal with these terrorists. The Colonel is somehow able to convince Snake, while also telling him that he's involved in this mission for his own personal reasons. His niece, rookie soldier Meryl Silverberg, is also among the hostages on the island. Former Foxhound Medical Chief Naomi Hunter injects Snake with what are known as nanomachines to increase his combat capabilities. And without further ado, Snake is inserted on site. His missions are aplenty and equally difficult. Learn about the nuclear launch capabilities of the Sons of Big Boss, stop them if necessary, and lastly, to rescue two extremely high-value hostages, DARPA Chief Donald Anderson and the president of the company Arms Tech, Kenneth Baker. For this mission, Snake would be receiving radio support from not just Colonel Campbell and Naomi Hunter, but also from data analyst Mei Ling, military analyst Natasha Romanenko, and from Snake's very own old mentor, Master Kazuhira Miller. After sneaking past a number of genome soldiers and getting the information of the DARPA chief through a couple of soldiers, Snake manages to find the cell where Donald Anderson is being held, who tells Snake just what the terrorist nuclear launch capabilities are. When the Sons of Big Boss took over Shadow Moses, they also took over a new Metal Gear that was being developed on the island, Metal Gear Rex. The DARPA chief informs Snake that the terrorists are not far away from being able to activate Metal Gear Rex, and that Snake would need 3 certain keycards if he wants to stop that from happening. Before Snake can find out anything else or make any efforts to rescue Anderson, the chief has a sudden heart attack and falls dead before Snake's very own eyes. The timing and nature of his death are obviously very suspicious, and as you will learn in the future, Donald Anderson's death is more significant than you could imagine. We won't tell you the full story just yet, that'll happen later on in the series, but we'll give you a hint. Anderson worked with Big Boss and Major Zero on Operation Snake Eater, going by the codename SIGINT. Before dying, the DARPA chief does tell Snake where the Arms Tech president Kenneth Baker is likely being held. After sneaking his way through more of the facility, Snake manages to reach that location. When he does, he is met by a precarious situation. Baker is alive and well, but Snake sees that he's tied to a pillar and rigged with C4, ready to be blown apart at the slightest misstep. And as Snake starts thinking about how to get out of this mess, things get even worse. In walks another Foxhound agent, and we're betting you'll recognize this one, Revolver Ocelot. Remember him? Of course you do. And remember his promise to Kaz Miller way back during the incidents of the Phantom Pain about how they would be on opposing sides if the Sons of Big Boss ever fought against each other? He made good on that promise. Solid Snake and Ocelot engage each other in a thrilling gunslinger-esque battle. It is, however, cut short, something that can only be described as a cyborg ninja, reminiscent of Kyle Schneider during the events of the Mercenary Wars, intervenes. The ninja cuts Baker free, slices off one of Ocelot's hands, and skedaddles. Ocelot, injured and humiliated, picks up his severed hand and flees as well. Kenneth Baker then gives Snake the lay of the land. He had been working with the DARPA chief for years on Metal Gear Rex. Arms Tech had been on the brink of bankruptcy, and Metal Gear was their way out. So Baker had been colluding with Anderson to develop Rex with the help of government's so-called black budget. He then goes on to give Snake information on Meryl, telling him that she has the keycard required to override Rex's activation. He also hands Snake an optical disc that contains a great deal of valuable information on the Metal Gear Rex project. Before he can tell Snake anything else, something very strange happens. Baker starts to have a heart attack and dies in a situation that is eerily similar to what happened to the DARPA chief. A confused Snake then contacts Meryl, seeking cooperation from her, but she is not ready to trust him just yet. She tells him to first locate and rescue a certain scientist who worked on the development of Metal Gear Rex. Who is this scientist? It's none other than Dr. Hal Otacon Emmerich, Huey Emmerich's son. Snake agrees and sets off towards his location. Along the way, he fights off several challenges, such as an intense battle with Foxhound member Vulcan Raven, and another encounter with the cyborg ninja. In his battle with the ninja, Snake realizes that he recognizes the man's fighting style, and also that the ninja himself seems to know who Snake is. He disappears once Snake defeats him in a one-on-one battle, and when he does, Snake realizes he knows who this man is. It is none other than Gray Fox, who had seemingly died at the hands of Snake himself in Zanzibar Land. When Snake contacts Colonel Campbell and Naomi Hunter and tells them about this, Naomi tells him that Gray Fox's body had been recovered after the Mercenary War by Dr. Clark, who used to be the former chief of medical staff for Foxhound. Incidentally, she also worked with Big Boss and Major Zero during Operation Snake Eater, back when she went by the codename of Paramedic. Sensing a pattern here? Because you should. Anyways, we'll talk about that a little later. Gray Fox, as it turns out, was revived by Dr. Clark and experimented upon through gene therapy. Thanks to this, he now has an exoskeleton and the heightened abilities of a ninja, in typical Metal Gear ridiculous and awesome fashion. These very experiments, by the way, are also what led to the creation of the Genome Soldiers. Gray Fox, however, is still officially supposed to be dead, and Naomi tells Snake that he supposedly died in a lab explosion 2 years ago, the very same explosion that also killed Dr. Clark herself. Not sure what to do with this new information, Snake moves forward and finds Hal Emmerich. Hal, who looks a lot like his father but is a much, much better person than he was, volunteers to help Snake during his mission however he can. Having gotten that out of the way, Snake finally finds Meryl. The two of them head towards the location of Metal Gear Rex, but before they can get there, they are ambushed by another Foxhound agent, who is another person you will probably recognize. Psycho Mantis, the telekinetic wonder, who is known as the third boy in the Phantom Pain, takes over Meryl's mind. Snake incapacitates her, and after a grueling battle, he is able to defeat Mantis. After encountering and slipping past another Foxhound member, the female sniper called Sniper Wolf, Snake and Meryl get separated, with the latter getting injured and Snake ending up getting captured by Ocelot and Liquid. Ocelot takes the optical disc containing data on Metal Gear Rex from Snake, unbeknownst to Liquid, and then proceeds to torture him. Eventually, Snake manages to escape, and after surviving a grueling fight against a Hind D helicopter piloted by Liquid, he comes face to face with Sniper Wolf once again. The two engage in a battle, and Snake manages to beat her once more. As she is lying on the ground and inching closer to death, she tells Snake about her past and how she met Big Boss when she was just a child. Otacon arrives on scene and tells Snake that he had grown deeply infatuated with Sniper Wolf while he had been a prisoner of the Sons of Big Boss. Snake shoots and kills Sniper Wolf to ease her passing, and the two move toward the location of Metal Gear Rex. After encountering and defeating Vulcan Raven again, Snake gets contacted by Kaz Miller over the radio and receives some startling information. Kaz tells Snake that Naomi Hunter is not who she says she is, and that she is most likely a spy. Snake realizes that Colonel Campbell has not been completely honest with him and has been hiding vital information. While he is much less trusting of the Colonel now, Snake still knows that he has other, more important issues to deal with. He moves forward with the mission to deal with Metal Gear Rex one way or another. While he is doing so, he manages to overhear a conversation between Liquid and Ocelot, and realizes what Liquid is planning to do. Firstly, Snake learns that Liquid plans on adding another demand for the White House, namely the vaccine to something called Fox Dye. Liquid also mentions that with Metal Gear Rex in his possession, he plans on joining the forces of the Sons of Big Boss with those of a Russian mercenary known as Sergei Gurlovich, and turn Shadow Moses into Outer Heaven. But wait, there's more. He wants to activate Rex and fire a nuke at a Chinese nuclear testing site so that the US is forced to reveal some of its secrets regarding this project with superpowers all over the world. At this point, these superpowers would become interested in buying information on both Metal Gear and the Genome Soldiers, which Liquid would then sell to the highest bidder. However, Liquid's motivations for doing this go far beyond a matter as simple as money. With a shitload of frightening and formidable resources at his disposal, Liquid plans to bring about World War III, and thus fulfilling Big Boss's dream of a world that would always have a place for soldiers, essentially turning the entire world into Outer Heaven, a refuge for soldiers. It is at this point that Naomi contacts Snake. She admits to him that she is indeed a spy, and tells him that she is actually the adoptive sister of Frank Jaeger, better known as Gray Fox. She tells Snake that after he nearly killed her brother during the events of Zanzibar Land, she was filled with hate for him and had been plotting her revenge for a long time. When she injected nanomachines into him, she also injected him with a virus known as Foxdie, which has the ability to target and kill specific people by inducing heart attacks in them. In this case, these targets were Kenneth Baker, Donald Anderson, members of the Foxhound unit, and the Genome Soldiers. However, Naomi modified the strain of Foxdie so that it targeted Snake as well. She does admit to Snake that now she knows his side of the story about the mercenary war, and she doesn't hate him anymore. But, well, that's not going to help him much now, is it? The Foxdie virus is in him, and sooner or later he will die because of it. Still, Snake presses on with his mission, and once again, shit hits the fan. When Snake finally acquires and uses the keycard by increasing, decreasing, and normalizing its pressure, he realizes that Metal Gear Rex has been activated. Yes, he has been tricked into inadvertently activating the weapon himself. And that's not even the worst of it. Colonel Campbell contacts Snake and tells him that the Kaz Miller he's been speaking with over the radio is not the real Miller. Kaz Miller, Campbell tells Snake, has been found dead and has been dead for 3 days. While the game never explicitly says it, it has been strongly implied that it was Ocelot who killed him, as he said he would at the end of the Phantom Pain. Liquid comes face to face with Snake, and as the two prepare for what might be the climactic confrontation between the two of them, Liquid tells Snake his motivations for what he's been doing. While in fact, Liquid Snake is the twin with the superior or dominant genes from Big Boss among the twins, he doesn't really know that. Not a lot of people do. As such, he has always been brought up with the belief that he is the inferior child. He has, as we saw during the events of the Phantom Pain, always harbored a deep hate and resentment towards Big Boss. His motivation for filling Big Boss's dream of a world where soldiers are always needed, and for wanting to turn Shadow Moses into Outer Heaven, are not some sort of respect towards Big Boss, but are actually quite the opposite. By doing so, Liquid wants to outdo and surpass Big Boss himself, and as a result, destroy his legend. Killing Solid Snake, who he believes to be the superior twin, is only going to be icing on the cake for him. Liquid then climbs aboard Metal Gear Rex, and Snake proceeds to engage him in battle. However, seeing as Liquid is inside an armored nuclear tank and Snake is, well, a human being, the battle turns sour for Snake fairly quickly. He realizes that he is doing very little damage to Rex, and that he won't survive much longer if he doesn't receive some sort of help sooner rather than later. And what do you know? He does receive help. From Gray Fox, no less. The cyborg ninja intervenes in the battle and deals a number of crushing blows to Rex, heroically damaging some vital components. Liquid furiously turns his attention to Gray Fox and crushes him under one of Rex's legs, finally killing Frank Jaeger once and for all. However, thanks to Gray Fox, Rex is now much more vulnerable than it previously was, allowing Snake to attack it with renewed vigor. Snake eventually manages to destroy Rex, but the resulting explosion knocks him out. When he comes to, he sees that he is atop the destroyed Rex, with Meryl's unconscious body next to him and Liquid Snake standing over both of them. He informs Snake that the three of them are running out of time, because thanks to the destruction of Metal Gear Rex and Naomi's tampering with the Foxdie virus, the Pentagon has been put on alert. Colonel Campbell contacts Snake and confirms this, telling him that the US government is about to launch nukes to wipe out the Shadow Moses Island. The Colonel, however, intends to delay this as much as possible in order to give Snake and Meryl time to escape. As it turns out, however, he is unable to do so. Jim Houseman, the Secretary of Defense, arrests Colonel Campbell and assumes command of the mission. He informs Snake that the missiles will indeed be launched against Shadow Moses, and that he wants to make sure that the twin snakes, who he believes to be an embarrassment from the 70s, are also caught in the explosion. When Houseman signs off, Liquid challenges Snake to a one-on-one duel with him, and seeing as Snake doesn't have many options, he agrees to it. The two fight in an intense, thrilling standoff, which ends as Snake pushes Liquid off of Rex's body into a long fall to the ground below. Snake and Meryl quickly commandeer a jeep and rush through the island in an effort to escape before it's blown to hell and back, while Liquid, who somehow still hasn't died, follows in his own jeep. After an action-packed chase sequence, the two jeeps reach the end of a tunnel and crash into each other. Snake and Meryl are trapped under their overturned vehicle, and Liquid approaches to finish them off. However, as he prepares to shoot Snake and kill his brother once and for all, the effects of Foxdie are triggered. Liquid suffers a heart attack, crashes to the ground, and finally, he dies. Snake once again receives a call from Colonel Campbell, who tells him that Jim Houseman had been acting alone. When the president found out about his actions, Houseman was promptly detained. As such, the airstrike against Shadowmosis had been called off. What's more, the Colonel informs Snake that both he and Meryl will be officially declared dead, the story being that their jeeps crashed into the ocean, meaning that the two of them can live a peaceful life from this point forth. Yeah, right. Snake, however, remains solemn, thanks to the fact that the Foxdie will kill him sooner or later regardless of everything else. Snake contacts Naomi, who tells him that even she doesn't know when the virus will complete its job. It will kill him after an indeterminate amount of time, she says. She tells him to live the remainder of his life as he would, without worrying about Foxdie, because death at its hand is inevitable for him either way. Snake and Meryl hop aboard a snowmobile and ride off into the Alaskan wilderness together. That, of course, is not the end. This is a Metal Gear game after all, which means there's at least one massive twist still to come. A regular run-of-the-mill, the bad guy's lost ending just doesn't work for this series. Revolver Ocelot, as it turns out, is still alive. Why did the Foxdie virus not kill him? That isn't explained in Metal Gear Solid itself, but it's something we will discuss later on in the series. It isn't really important right now. What is important is that he's alive and well, and in true Ocelot fashion, he was working as a double agent all of this time. And his actual objective was to retrieve the optical disc that contained all of the data on Metal Gear Rex. While on the face of it, Ocelot's allegiances lie with Liquid Snake and his Foxhound unit. He has actually been working in the shadows with the President of the United States on something completely different and off the books. And who is the President? He is Solidus Snake, the secret third brother of Solid and Liquid Snake, and the perfect clone of Big Boss himself. And that's it for Part 6. When we come back for Part 7, we will jump back into the events of the Tanker Incident and the Big Shell Incident, both of which form the combined story of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Brothers! Liquid! I've been waiting for this! It can't be!
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.